We've seen it all before, of course, but the protests in Iran against the government this time have taken a very dangerous turn in the last few days. They've spilled over into violence. And we in the West are left wondering if this is simply an economically motivated cry of despair or something rather more existential, challenging the rectitude of Iran's governance in a more modern world, its Islamicist convictions, and effective quarantine from the rest of the world, excluding, of course, North Korea and Russia. Well, joining me is a friend of the programme and an Iranian in exile in the UK. This is the black metal band leader, Shayan S of Trivax. Shayan, it's great to have you with us. Thanks so much for joining us. You must be worried at the moment.
Rod, it's a pleasure to join yourself on the program once again. Thank you for having me, and also thank you for paying attention to the situation in Iran. Worry is certainly one of the multitude of emotions I'm currently experiencing when I witness what is happening in my home country. And but having said that, I feel like this may be one of the closest I have witnessed the Islamic Republic to actually coming to falling down, which ultimately I'm hoping that that is something that will happen, but I hope that it will happen as peacefully as possible and with the least amount of trouble for the Iranian people.
Why do you think that this protest, because we saw protests in 2022, of course, why do you think this has more force?
I think that one thing that people have to consider is that the protests in Iran have been occurring ever since the Islamic Republic actually took over. Now, granted, they came into power as a result of the revolution in 1979, which was against the monarchy at the time when the Shah went into exile. But the frequency of these protests have increased over the years. Now, what was happening during the Masa Amini protests back in 2022, that was more so a result of the cultural element of things, and obviously the police's mistreatment of the people, or more so the government's mistreatment of its own people under the guise of Islamic law. I think what's happening right now is that this may be the final straw that breaks the camel's back, because now we are discussing finances. So a lot of the people in Iran who were perhaps fence sitters for a very long time, now they themselves are under effect because of the severe inflation in Iran, which, if I'm not mistaken, is over 42%, which is, for anyone who has the mildest understanding of finances, that is a disaster, to say the least. And I think that once you start targeting the people who are in charge of the markets and the bazaars, and they have now effectively shut down their whole process, that basically is the moment that the system could very well collapse from inside.
And are you in touch with anyone in Iran at all?
Yes, of course. Yeah, I have friends and people that I'm close with all over the country, as a matter of fact. And I do know that the situation is fairly dire for people there. So if they weren't dire, people wouldn't just be doing an uprising for the sake of it. They wouldn't be putting themselves on the line. But when an entire population are in a situation where they have nothing to lose financially, culturally, in terms of safety, this is exactly going to be the outcome. Now, you have to understand as well, one severe situation that the Iranian government is currently facing is the fact that there is currently no trust in the finances of the country. So, for example, if people, if they work, if they save, and if they follow the rules, are they guaranteed a tomorrow? At this moment in time, they are not, and they haven't been for a long time. And I think that we're witnessing the potential tipping point.
Shayan S, it's always wonderful to talk to you. Thanks so much for joining me this morning. I hope to talk to you again soon. That's Shayan S of the black metal band Trivax.
هیچ بهانه‌ای رو خدا که اگر ما به اون کتاب خدا عمل نکنیم
The security situation in Iran could deteriorate significantly if socio-economically disadvantaged groups take to the streets en masse. At the beginning of the week, merchants and shop owners were the primary demonstrators, driven by instability in exchange rates. Currently, Iran's role in the global oil market and international economy is negligible, as reflected in its foreign trade share of under 0.4%. While inflation is unlikely to reach the 2022 record, hitting that level in 2026 would almost certainly trigger widespread social and political unrest.
U.S. President Donald Trump wrote on social media on Friday that, quote, if Iran shots and violently kills peaceful protesters, which is their custom, the United States of America will come to their rescue. A top Iranian official responded to Trump's comments, warning that U.S. interference in domestic Iranian issues would equal the destabilization of the whole region. The U.S. warning comes days into unrest that has left several dead and posed the biggest internal threat to Iranian authorities in years. Eyewitness video from Thursday showed an overturned car and several fires as protesters chanted outside a police station in Loristan province. This week's protests over soaring inflation have spread across Iran, with deadly confrontations between demonstrators and security forces. The elected president Masoud Pezeshkian has struck a conciliatory tone. On Thursday, he said the government was at fault for the conditions that gave rise to the demonstrations. State-affiliated media and rights groups have reported at least 6 deaths since Wednesday. Iran has seen repeated bouts of major unrest in recent decades, often quelling protests with heavy security measures and mass arrests. But worsening economic problems may leave authorities more vulnerable now. Pezeshkian's government is attempting a program of economic liberalization, but one step, deregulating some currency exchange, has contributed to a sharp decline in the value of Iran's rial on the unofficial market. That has compounded inflation, which has hovered above 36% since March, in an economy battered by Western sanctions.